Srimad, His Divine Grace, Hirabai Charanarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami, Sridham Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Panditi Founders His Divine Grace of the Prabhupada ki, Namacharya Sridhar Haridas Thakur ki, Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda ki, Harinam Sankirtan ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jainitai Gaura Pimanande. All gladies to be assembled devotees, all gladies to be assembled devotees, all gladies to be assembled devotees, all gladies to Sri Guru and to Sri Gauranga, all gladies to Sri Prabhupada ki. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksuranmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Gita Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalitam Sri Visakam Vitam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansakalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Narayanam namaskritya Dharam chaiva narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer our respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayana Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Sridham Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayasha badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Sakara Bhagavan Rishi Vishreyasaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swasyayanam Mahat. The Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, the Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Saradhyaya Namaha Om Saradhyaya Namaha Om Saradhyaya Namaha Mukam karoti vacharam pangom langayate girim yatkripa tamaham bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Yatkripa tamaham bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to our morning ongoing study of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are continuing canto number 1, chapter 15, entitled The Pandavas Require Timely, text number 44. Udichim Praviveshasam Gata Purvam Mahatmabhihi Ridhi Brahma Param Dhyayan Navarteta Yato Gataha Udichim Prabhiveshasam Gata Purvam Mahatmabhihi Ridhi Brahma Udichim Prabhiveshasam Gata Purvam Mahatmabhihi Riti Brahma Param Dhyayan Navarteta Yato Gataha Udichim Prabhiveshasam Gata Purvam Mahatmabhihi Riti Brahma Param Dhyayan Navarteta Yato Gataha Udichim Prabhiveshasam Gata Purvam Mahatmabhihi Ridi Brahma Param Dhyayan Navarteta Yato Gataha Udicim praviveshasam Gata purvam mahatmabhi Ridit brahma param dhyayam Navarteta gatugataha. One more.
Udicim praviveshasham
Udicim praviveshasam
Gata purvam mahatmabhi
Gata purvam mahatmabhi
Hridi brahma param dhyayan
Ridit brahma param dhyayam
Navarteta yato gataha
Navarteta yato gataha. Udicim,
Udicim,
the northern side.
the northern side
Pravisheshas asam,
Pravisheshasam
those who wanted to enter there.
Those who wanted to enter there
Gatapurvam,
Gata purvam
the path accepted by his forefathers.
The path accepted by his forefathers
Mahatmabhihi,
Mahatmabhi
by the broad-minded.
By the broad-minded
Ridhi,
Hridi
within the heart.
within the heart
Brahma,
Brahma
the supreme.
the supreme
Param,
Param
Godhead.
Godhead
Dhyayan,
Dhyayan
constantly thinking of.
constantly thinking of
Na avarta, na avartita,
Na avarteta
past his days.
past his days
Yataha,
Yataha
wherever.
wherever
Gataha,
Gataha
went.
went.
Translation and purport by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Sridham Prabhupada Ki.
Jai.
He then started towards the north, treading the path accepted by his forefathers and great men, to devote himself completely to the thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he lived in that way wherever he went. Kindly repeat after me. He then started towards the north,
He then started towards the north,
treading the path accepted by his forefathers
accepted by his forefathers
and great men,
and great men,
to devote himself completely
to devote himself completely
to the thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
to the thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
And he lived in that way
And he lived in that way
wherever he went.
wherever he went.
Purport. It is understood from this verse that Maharaj Yudhishthira followed in the footsteps of his forefathers and the great devotees of the Lord. We have discussed many times before that the system of Varnasrama Dharma, as it was strictly followed by the inhabitants of the world, specifically by those who inhabited the Aryabharta province of the world, emphasizes the importance of leaving all household connections at a certain stage of life. The training and education was so imparted, and thus a respectable person like Maharaj Yudhishthira had to leave all family connection for self-realization and going back to Godhead. No king or respectable gentleman would continue family life till the end, because that was considered suicidal and against the interest of the perfection of human life. In order to be freed from all family encumbrances and devote oneself 100% in the devotional service of Lord Krishna, this system is always recommended for everyone because it is the path of authority. The Lord instructs in the Bhagavad Gita 1862 that one must become a devotee of the Lord at least at the last stage of one's life. A sincere soul of the Lord, like Maharaj Yudhishthir, must abide by this instruction of the Lord for his own interest. The specific words Brahmaparam indicate Lord Sri Krishna. This is corroborated in the Bhagavad Gita 10:13 by Arjuna with reference to great authorities like Asita, Devala, Narada, and Vyasa. Thus, Maharaj Yudhishthir, while leaving home for the north, constantly remembered Lord Sri Krishna within himself, following in the footsteps of his forefathers, as well as the great devotees of all times. Translation again. He then started towards the north, treading the path accepted by his forefathers and great men, to devote himself completely to the thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he lived in that way wherever he went. So this is describing the, we could say, major decision that Yudhishthira Maharaj made. Major decision, this is, as Prabhupada explained in the purport, if one is fortunate to be educated from early life in this culture, this Vedic culture, that whatever position we may have in the world, whatever duties and responsibility, at a certain point in life means vanaprastha. Vanaprastha. Vanaprastha is where one is meant to become physically detached, mentally and physically detached from so many different family and social duties and responsibilities. Vanaprastha is still within our society less understood. We have a few individuals who are writing books on the importance of vanaprastha. So Prabhupada makes reference here to, what does he call it, the province? Yeah, Aryavarta province. What is the Aryavarta province of the world? Arya means those who are advanced civilization. Advanced civilization means those who follow Vedic culture. So Aryavarta province refers to India, Bharatvarsha, which when we read Bhagavatam, this culture, this is actually We speak of many cultures in the world, but there is one eternal culture. Most people don't know about this eternal culture, which we call Sanatana Dharma. So, just like in the Bhagavatam, it is stated, Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. The principles of Dharma. This was spoken by Jamaraj. That whole Leela of Ajamil, who had been saved by the Vishnu Dutas, isn't it? Very nice instruction. Ajamil, born in a Brahmana family as a young boy, was following, must have gone to Gurukul, followed all the different Vedic rituals, and had completed his studies, was married as a young man, but due to inattention became attracted to a prostitute, left completely, gave up all of his practices, and for the rest of his life engaged in so many sinful activities right up until practically the end of his life. And when the Yamadutas were present, forcing him to leave his body, then he called out his son's name, Narayana, and then because of that, the agents of Lord Narayan, the Vishnu Dutas, they appeared on it. So there was a whole big discussion actually between the servants of Jamaraj and the Vishnu Dutas. And that's when this particular instruction was given, that the principles of religiosity that we call dharma, Sanatana Dharma, they are eternal principles. It's only when one is fortunate to come in contact with people from this Arya civilization. Krishna is chastising Arjuna in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. You're not speaking like Arya. You're becoming sentimental. You're not taking up your duty, your responsibility. So, most people in the world are totally unaware, totally ignorant that there is a culture, an eternal culture. And very few, in Kali Yuga especially, very few people are fortunate to come in contact with that culture. Of course, the mission of our Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is to spread that culture, whereby one can understand the importance of this human form of life and begin from a very early age, young age, to to follow and to put into practice this culture. Then, only then, it becomes possible, as in the case of Maharaj Yudhishthir, to, immediately practically, isn't it? When he got this news, information that Lord Krishna has completed his pastimes and had left the material plane, then there and then he decided to give up his duties and responsibilities. And this is what is being described here. He headed for the north, and that is a sign of successful life as early as possible. Well, it should start by the age of 50. It's that cultivation of that type of consciousness should be developed even from very early life, from brahmachari life, actually. So, Prabhupada makes reference, of course, in the purport also to Varnasrama Dharma, the whole process, just like yesterday. Yesterday we had a short class. Venugopal Prabhu just happened to visit. So we asked him to speak a little bit, making the point how it is, for the vast majority of people, very, very difficult to immediately come to that pure platform of complete detachment. And therefore, Krishna has devised a process or a system to facilitate the development of spiritual qualities that enables us to actually make such kind of decisions, to completely leave and fully and completely surrender our thoughts, our feelings, our desires completely in the service of Krishna. That is the mission of life, and generally it takes, just like we see, how many people actually take that kind of decision to live in an ashram or to accept any of the 4 ashrams that are there within the system of Varnasrama. It generally comes after many, many lifetimes. Bahunam janmanamanti, jnanavam mam prapaditi, vasudeva sarvamiti, samahatma sudolabha. The mission of our Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually is to make more and more people, or to give more and more people that opportunity, because it comes with proper education, proper knowledge. People have to be educated as to the importance of this human form of life, and must learn about or know about examples like Yudhishthira Maharaj. India has many examples. Of course, even outside of India, there are people who are practicing different types of processes. But the principles of Sanatana Dharma, they are described as perfect principles. It's like we read in the Bhagavatam, canto number 7, that whole section where Narada Muni is explaining about Varnasrama Dharma, and beginning from chapter 11. So what's the title of chapter 11? Somebody remember? The Perfect Society. The Perfect Society for Social Division. Then chapter 12, again, the Perfect Society for Spiritual Division. So chapter 11 is talking about the Varnas, social division. The point being that we know it's only when we come in contact with such knowledge or such literature that there is such a thing as perfection. We are, when we take up the spiritual life, we are endeavoring to become perfect. Uh, by ourselves, we cannot become perfect, but the goal actually is to become, is to perfect the process, which is, uh, which is within this whole system of Sanatana Dharma. In other words, we believe, we who are, those who are followers of Dharma, of Sanatana Dharma, we believe in perfect knowledge. We believe in perfect knowledge because we believe in a perfect person, the original personality of Godhead, who is perfect and complete. And therefore, it is only when we follow this perfect knowledge that is originally given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and that is coming in Guru Parampara, then that we can make our lives also perfect. Making our lives perfect means completely in line with the principles of Dharma for the primary goal and purpose of Samsiddhi Haritoshanam, to actually please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in this way, Yudhishthira Maharaj is showing us by personal example. We have many similar examples in the Bhagavatam, and and those who read and study the subject matter in the Bhagavatam can also come to follow in the footsteps of such great personalities. Any thoughts or questions on this?
So this Yudhishthira Maharaj behavior quite completely changed. Before he was a emperor, king, doing his occupational duty, you can say that. Like every leader have some duty and family duties also, two parallel duties. And no, he gave up the two of them, and then he started a new, very new lifestyle. So did he learn it in younghood or in his child education, or he learned from some elderly person, and then he started to behave according to that? So should these young boys learn what to do after 70 or 60, or before, after the finishing their lives, and then you have to keep in memory, or it's a culture which is kept in any family or in any nation or any society, like ISKCON have different. So can you share some thought about how to educate young boys or old boys?
He's asking a question for your benefit.
Yeah.
Well, there's a few things. One is that this type of training, education, and understanding is best accomplished or best done when one begins from childhood. Childhood training, especially Gurukul training, is especially meant to to prepare from early life. But it's not only in Gurukul, the whole Vedic culture is arranged in such a way because only very few people go to Gurukul, right? Very small percentage of the population go to Gurukul. So how to train the rest of the people in that kind of understanding. So there are so many cultural aspects. There are so many, in addition to the formal system of Gurukula, there are many informal ways by which this culture, this understanding, for example, even like 500 years ago, during the time of Lord Chaitanya, they used to have many like dramas and plays that would enact the different pastimes that we read about, like in the Shastra. So it's a whole culture. That's why Prabhupada would often say that our Krishna consciousness movement is, in addition to being, to give spiritual knowledge, spiritual information, it's not only a spiritual movement, but it's also a cultural and educational movement. You mentioned about elders, which is something important. This is pointed out especially if we read like the Kautilya Arthashastra. It mentions that those who are meant to be trained as princes, as leaders in society, part of that training and education is meant to be had by associating with elders. So the association with elders, those who are especially, let's say, brahmanas or experienced kshatriyas, elders in society who have lived a life based on these principles of Sanatana Dharma will naturally be having so much of knowledge and so much of realization, they will be wise by nature. So the association of elders is always very important as part of one's training and education. And that's why the whole modern setup is so destructive. It is physically destructive in terms of destroying the planet because of very gross and abuse, exploitation of the natural resources on the planet. But it is also, in so many subtle ways, very destructive in terms of Prabhupada refers to killing the finer tissues within human being, because we become so impersonal in our dealings. We become so obsessed and absorbed in material pursuits. We become so competitive, etc. And people will sit beside one another but not talk with one another because they're too tied up and preoccupied with what's on their cell phone. So therefore, the need to create and to live in a more natural environment where relationships, interesting point that is made by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur when he speaks about the importance for young boys to associate with their peers. When He's talking about the selection of Varna. That's a whole other discussion, of course. When we live in a more natural way, in a more natural environment, when we have parents who are God conscious, when we have elders and teachers who are following the Vedic culture, who know about the principles of Sanatana Dharma, then there's a whole system whereby one at a certain age, means usually before the age of 15, knows what his varna is, knows what his natural abilities or tendencies are, and therefore one from that young age is more easily able to mold his life and to live in such a way that even though one assumes different responsibilities, vast majority of people will enter householder life, but when that training is there, even upon entering, it's not that Yudhisthira Maharaj, even though he was emperor, was forgetting his duties. He was executing as a responsible householder his responsibilities as the emperor, as a householder, etc. But that is built in within the whole system. That's what makes it very unique in terms of Varnashrama culture or Sanatana Dharma culture, is that one should leave, one should physically leave family life and fully, completely absorb oneself in remembering the Supreme Lord. So that will be more easy to actually take up if the earlier stages have been followed. If one has, if one is fortunate to be born in a Vaishnava family, as Prabhupada would explain, then that is a great boon, great opportunity. And that's why those who are parents, those who are devotee parents, have a tremendous responsibility to to attract souls, living entities, who who will, from the moment they are conceived, will get the maximum opportunity actually to advance in spiritual life. It's like, Prahlad Maharaj within the womb of his mother his mother was living in Narada Muni's ashram, so he was hearing every day, even though he was still within the womb. He was hearing Bhagavatam, he was living in a sattvic environment. So the whole Varnashram culture is to create that sattvic environment where maximum opportunity is given to the maximum number of people to rise more and more in the mode of goodness, and then of course beyond. Yeah. So, as very nicely stated by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that the system of Varnashrama is for the Vaishnavas, is for the Vaishnavas in their conditioned state. When I first read that some years back, I thought, wow, that's quite interesting, because very often we think, as Vaishnavas, we don't need Varnashrama. But when you hear a statement by, one of our foremost acharyas, that Varnashrama is for the Vaishnavas in their conditioned state. So that means that even as Vaishnavas, we are all practicing Vaishnavas, but we are practicing Vaishnavas. We're not yet Vaishnavas. Vaishnava is someone who's actually completely connected, detached, isn't it, from the modes of material nature. Actual Vaishnava is one who is, on that most elevated platform. We are endeavoring, aspiring to become, excuse me, to become situated on that platform, and that system, that is the built-in system